Hey guys, Edward Beck here with Quick Sell. Today, Mike asked me to talk about a post that I put online. I guess it got a lot of traction, and he's like, "Hey, we should have this conversation." So Mike says, I was like, "Well, I don't want to have that conversation just stared at a camera." So I said, "Mike, you got to jump in with me." So I guess let's get into it.
All right, cool. So, the reason I had told you that I wanted to have this conversation was because of this specifically. You posted something yesterday, and I saw it about 10 minutes, 12 minutes after you posted, and you had over 50 likes. I mean, and the thing that I was curious. I was like, what did you say that made it pop so fast or move so quick? And so I took the time to read it, and I saw it, and it was a picture of a rose right in your front yard, and it was talking about how that rose shouldn't be blooming now. Right?
Yeah.
According to our climate, blah blah blah, whatever. And so
It's already cold.
So it was real big, and so I just thought this was a crucial life conversation that I think a lot of people could benefit from. And so I just wanted to kind of have that conversation with you. Tell me a little bit about the post first, and then we can go from there.
Well, I was just driving home, in my own world, and I was parking in my driveway, and I just saw the rose, and I planted I don't know, it was 16 new roses this year. They're young, so I got some blooms, but not a lot, and each one's different color or whatever. And then all of them already bloomed. Some of them died, right? Mm-hmm. And then I got out of the car and I saw that there was a full bloom red rose just there. And I was like, that's strange. And then I just felt like God speak to me, and he's like, it's a late bloom. And he's like, just this impression, this life of this feeling like it's even more beautiful because it's late. It's unexpected. It's not as it's a surprise. It's almost like that. And I had these feelings of I remember I put in there somebody commented, and I was like, yeah, every New Year I would get depressed.
I didn't read those comments.
Yeah. So every New Year's, you can ask my wife. Every New Year's we'd go to her brother's house, or they'd come over here or whatever. And they'd celebrate, and everybody's going around champagne and eating grapes or whatever the hell. And I always got mad and sad, and I wasn't satisfied with where I was going. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I always felt like I was stuck in second gear. You know what I mean? And so every New Year's I would always kind of just not overly, I'm not crying in the corner or something ridiculous. Yeah. It's more of just subtle, something that my wife would notice, but nobody else. I'm not and it's weird for me because generally I think I'm a pretty happy guy. You know what I mean? I'm not a depressed guy, but I just always felt like I was trying to catch up. I had got lost in some of the, when I was young too, I struggled a lot in school. I struggled a lot with reading. For sure I can't spell worth a damn. He laughs at my spelling. It's really bad. And it's funny now I like to read, which is strange, right? I like history. I'm a curious guy. But in school I didn't fit that mold of sit here, sit still. You know what I mean? And listen to me tell you about something that you don't care about.
Did teachers give you crap about that, or?
Oh yeah, they diagnosed me with ADD. They put me in the special class.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? I was in the special class, and then forever I always had this stamp on my head of you're dumb. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I even had my dad's second wife. She was gonna tutor me. And I remember her telling me she's like, I can't help you, you're too dumb. You know what I mean? She was a real bee, but it was, as a kid, those things, they stick in your head.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? And they become part of your identity. And I struggled a lot with that. If you know me now, it almost sounds ridiculous, but I had a complex, like I had a problem with it. You know what I mean? And I always just felt like maybe something's really done. Like, you ever had that feeling like people know something about you that you don't know? You know, almost like you smell, but you can't smell yourself. That's how I felt a lot of the time. So I always had this insecurity about where I was going, how I would be able to do it. And it's funny, the way I kind of broke out of it was one day I was at church and the pastor was talking about potential, and it was on the East Side Church, and it just spoke to me. And at the end of that service, I went to my mom and I was like, I'm getting out of these classes. And I was in high school. I went through resource from second grade all the way till my freshman year.
Dang.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
so you were like established, like labeled. Like,
yeah.
Sure. Like.
Yeah. And I remember I went to my teacher, and it's funny, my teacher followed me from elementary all the way to high school. I don't know how that happened, but and I went to him and I was like, hey, I want to get out of these classes. What do I need to do? And he's like, dude, you can't get out of these classes. There's no way you can do that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I was like, well, what would I have to do? You know, I was determined. And he's like, well, you'd have to pass your TOS test. Back then it was the TOS test, right?
I don't even know what it is. I think it's STAR now, I think.
I don't know. You have to pass your TOS test, and then you have to get all 4 of your core teachers to sign off to take the risk to take you into regular ed class. I didn't know what I know now, but your grades don't count against everybody else if you're in this class. Neither does your TOS test count
so
against
you're
it.
Kind of isolated, so it doesn't affect
the school,
them as a teacher. Blah blah blah.
So it's a risk for them. I didn't know that. So then I went to the counselor and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And she said, okay. So like for the whole summer, that's when I got the tutor. Even my uncle tried to tutor me. And all I did was just study all summer. It was weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I really wanted to get out of that class. I just felt like, I don't know, like something was wrong with me, right? Mm-hmm. And so I studied and studied and studied and studied. And then I took the TOS test my sophomore year. I think that's when I took it, the beginning of the sophomore year. And I got like mastery of one, academic achievement of the other 2. And then I went and I got the signatures from the 4 core teachers. Mm-hmm. And they were really nice to do that. They were in this thing, the Synergy program that was at Montwood. And I went in there, you know, and barely passed, but but passed, thank God, right? And then the next year, I was like, man, I want to go to private school. So then I just made up my mind to go to private school, and everybody's like, I don't know how you're gonna do it, you know, like my parents couldn't afford it. Yeah. But somehow we figured it out, and I went to private school for 2 years. And I remember I went and took that entry exam, right? Mm-hmm. And that entry exam I failed, and they were like, you're like at 7th grade level, everything, right? You know, when you go to private school, like,
yeah, they don't care.
You're in a different world, you know what I mean? She's like, we're gonna bring you back 2 grades. It's like, no, I'll figure it out. And Miss Carranza at Faith, she took the risk on me, mm-hmm. and I passed. You know, it was like I've always been a C happy student. Like I got a C, I was very happy. But I passed, and I was in these, and they were doing like college level stuff, like British literature. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like to go from what I was doing in my freshman year to British literature in the junior year is like, it's like seven grade levels. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Of like the British literature stuff was like college level stuff. You know, like it was harder there than it was in college, which was surprising. And then I got all that, and then I graduated barely, and then I went to college and I took that entry exam, and I had to take a remedial class, right? I was never a good test taker. Then I took that remedial class, and I passed it, and I got into the regular class. And then my first semester at college, I got on the dean's list, which is hilarious. So a lot of the guys that were at Montwood that used to like literally like poke fun at me or bully me, like poor guys, right? Bully me because I was in the dumb class, right? They failed their first year, and I was on the dean's list, which was it was like just strange thing. But I think the reason I don't know why I'm telling you that whole story, but that's kind of, I think that was the thing that I said, Psh, I can do whatever I set my mind to do.
So do you think struggling, like obviously you overcame those struggles, right? But like, do you think that struggle kind of set a tempo for your life? And that did that, and I mean, tell me what you're thinking, right? But did that kind of set up that New Year's issue down the road where you're just like...
No, I think that's more of me feeling like I've always been behind. You know what I mean? That was the biggest thing that I was behind in, is like literally I thought I was the dumb. You know what I mean? And feeling like you're dumb your whole life and always struggling with that, you know, is like it's like a disability almost. You know what I mean? But the truth of the matter is that I wasn't. I was just lazy. You know what I mean? And resource gave me a reason to be lazy, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe I learned different. Maybe I was, I don't know, dyslexic, or maybe I did have ADD, or I don't know. You know what I mean? Like maybe there was some learning disorder. Or maybe I should have been in GT. I don't know. You know what I mean? But for sure, whatever they did didn't work, right? All they did was just like, oh, okay, we're good. Now we don't have to deal with him no more. You know what I mean? I didn't, my intelligence didn't fit into the regular school box, right? Which is like building a robot, right? I just never was that way, you know. I like learning things specifically and just going to the umpteenth way. You know what I mean? That's kind of my thing. But I would say the idea of the rose is more of like there's still time. You know, I feel like I felt like I was always behind in that, and there's still time. Like that was one of my times where I bloomed late. You know what I mean? Like, why would I go from resource, from like a 5th grade in college, in high school, to dean's list in college? Like, how is that possible? You know, it's possible just because. Now, not saying that it was easy. Like, I'm sure there's other people like my son or like my older brother who was like naturally smart, right? Naturally book smart. That school just comes to easily. But it doesn't mean necessarily that you're not in that, you know, I don't know how to say it. You're not that one that's not smart. It's just you learn differently. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I think that's why I'm so like you know me, Mike, and I'm like addicted to like analyzing myself and other people. I'm actually, I think that's one of my strengths, is I'm a strength finder. You know, so I'd be like, I can analyze you and be like, okay, this is what you're gonna be good at, and you'll thrive in this environment. And I think it's because I did so much analyzing of myself to figure out what the hell is wrong with me, right? So, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's what's wrong with me. Okay, that's why I don't learn this way, or that's why, you know, I like geometry more than I like algebra.
Did that process of analyzing and stuff like that, did it continue outside of college, or?
Yeah. Like that. Actually, that was the crux of it. It was like the beginning of it. You know what I mean? Where the self-help world kind of just opened up to me, and I just became like immersed in the idea of like figuring out myself. You know what I mean? Like self-discovery.
So do you think that's crucial no matter where you're at or who you are?
Yeah. Like if you don't know what you're like, I think everybody's built for something great and unique. There's like something that you have that nobody else has in this world, and you're built to fix that problem. That's how I look at the world. So you have God given, made you, molded you in your mother's stomach for a purpose. It doesn't necessarily have to be you're going to be president of the United States, right?
Yeah.
But it could be like you're going to be the best dad there is in the whole world, or you're going to raise the next president, or you're going to be the best painter there is in the whole world. Like, it doesn't have to be what society says success is. It has to just be what is for you, and that's what's going to make you happy. Like, I have a good friend, he's a plumber, and I know him from church, and he loves it. He's all about that life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You talk to him about plumbing and his eyes light up. You know what I mean? Like, do you know how much I care little about plumbing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this guy's eyes light up about plumbing. Like, somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do fix the clogged sink. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, when you have a clogged sink, it's the most important thing to you. Like, when you got sewer pouring, like over here in my shower, like this, like one time it backed up and it like came out of the shower. Oh my God. Like, I had to retile that bathroom because it was so disgusting. But man, when that happens, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Right?
And someone has to be able to solve that problem. Yeah.
Dude, and it's like super crucial. You know what I mean? Like, what's more crucial than feces in your living room, right? It's
that's
like,
gross. Yeah.
like, but I don't know what made it stand out to you.
I think you already kind of hit the nail on the head. My thought process was, I think we underestimate how important it is to feed the right mentality and right ideas into people when we're young.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I was letting you tell your story, but one of the things I was thinking as you were telling it was, it had to have been harder to get out of, or to get where you wanted to go, because so many people had already told you were dumb. You mean, even if they didn't say it directly, they just implied it, or just like, yeah, you can't do that, or there's no way they're going to sign off, or whatever. And so there's just like this constant affirmation or reaffirmation of maybe I can't, maybe I should, maybe I should. Yeah, I mean, and so I'm on the other side of it, right, where I have I'm a youth pastor, right, and so there's a constant battle that I have with young people, of making sure that I affirm what they can be, right? Like, obviously sometimes when we're young we do stupid things. I mean, we make bad decisions, we're inexperienced, whatever. But I do my best to make sure that I'm constantly affirming what people can become, what they have the potential to become. You know? And so I think it stood out to me, man, because we've been friends for a few years now, and so it's been a real blessing for me to be able to just kind of listen, learn, bug you, and then also get your feedback on some stuff. We don't always agree 100%, but to get your feedback though, because a lot of times it comes from experience, it comes from wisdom. It's not coming from like, you know what I think. Like, it's like, oh, one time I did this and it was a bad move, or one time I did that, it was a good move. But what I've noticed, or in those conversations, is for someone like me, I'm the other side of it, right? Maybe not your parents. Maybe your parents were great, but like, on the other side of it, where I was constantly, like, dude, you're amazing and you do so good and blah blah blah.
Like,
people were actually, so I didn't
affirming you.
Yeah. And when I dropped out of college, I didn't finish college, right? And people were actually like, why didn't you finish? Like, what's going on? Like, I was so sure you were the blah blah blah, and et cetera, et cetera. And but I'd never struggled with the issue or the question of like, am I dumb? Am I what they say I am? Am I whatever? I never had to fight that fight. You know what I mean? So the idea that, now at the same time, I'm also, now I have to fight the internal struggle of like, should I have finished college? Did I do it right? Did I do this? Like, even though I'm happy with life, right? There's just like these little things that as I'm going along, I see my friends and I'm like, oh, they're doing more here, more there than I am, because of the route that I chose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'm trying to play that battle out where I'm like, okay, I can't judge where we're at right now because I just got onto this trajectory. I got to judge where we're at in 10 years. You know what I mean? And see what kind of thing it is, and see if I'm still happy in 10 years, not can I compare myself to them or not. You know what I mean? And so
that's good.
there was just that question, and so I guess that was also the other side of my question is because I didn't expect you, honestly, in this conversation, I didn't expect you to go all the way back to being second grade. Like that, it's obviously a lot deeper than I thought it was. You know what I mean? This idea that like it's a late bloom, like you're talking about, no, 30 years later, it's a late bloom.
No, and I still struggle with the idea that I'm dumb. You know what I mean? Like, not that I don't believe that I'm smart. It's more of those labels that people give you as a child, especially if it comes from somebody with authority over your life, that you respect their opinion. Like, dude, you really have to like come against those things. And I think as parents is something that we need to protect from our kids. Speak life over your children. As I know you got a child coming. I almost said a boy. Maybe.
I hope so.
See, I called it. It hasn't known yet, so if I called it. But over your child, you speak blessing over them, and especially from a father figure. I think I know all the women are going to get mad, but even more than women is the authority that the father has over their children to speak life over them. It's crucial, and I think it's something that America's missing. The breakup of the family, the non-existent fathers. I think a lot of that has hurt the boys, especially, and the women. They need to hear that from their father. My dad's really good at that, to be honest with you. So I had that side of my life. Ironically, with his wife, his second wife, she was crazy, but she was like the opposite. You know what I mean? Where she would speak death over me.
Yeah.
I don't think she did it on purpose. I think it was like an act. Like, she was like, how sometimes it's like, I'm just trying to be real with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's not something that I, as a kid, needed to learn. I just needed to figure out, okay, how do I learn? What's the best way that I learn? Like, there's some things that I learn naturally. It's something I've talked to my wife about this a few times, where I was like, hey, because she's like a special ed. She runs a special ed department in school. She's a diagnostician. And I was like, let me talk to these kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not the severe, but the kids like that I was.
Yeah.
And I want to give them hope. You know what I mean? Like, maybe part of the thing in life is, at the end, whenever I'm successful, whenever that happens, I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
But whenever I'm successful, I can go and talk to these kids and be like, screw your teacher. Like, you know what I mean? Like, in a sense. Not all teachers were like that, but it was a lot more common, I think. And be like, you can be something else. You know what I mean? There's a good book from Robert Kiyosaki that says, why do A students work for C students? You know what I mean? Like, this literally the title of the book. And it's more of just, how you learn is different, and what you're good at is different. Like the idea of school and getting straight A's and being on the dean's list and getting, AP classes and, A honor roll or whatever, that will make you successful is not an accurate depiction. The same way that getting a college degree does not equal success. You know what I mean? Now, you can look at statistics, you know what I mean, and find out some statistics, but people are not statistics. People are gifted differently. You know what I mean? So maybe some kids should go through college and get that degree. You know what I mean? Maybe.
That's their strength.
That's their strength. You know what I mean? But maybe some other kids should not. Right? Like, you need doctors, and you want a doctor that went to college, right?
Yeah.
And, you need, we don't really need lawyers. I'm just kidding. We do need lawyers, and hopefully they went to college, right?
Yeah.
And, you need people that have degrees, engineers that, figured out all these different things. You don't want, you know, Chato building the bridge across, the spaghetti bowl, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you need some certification and stuff like that. Like, there's need for it, but there's also the other side of the world. Like, there's the vast majority of stuff that needs to be done does not require a degree and does not require like some crazy license. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that self-discovery is a big thing, and that's one thing I would like to talk to these kids, like, because I almost want to say, like, okay, every kid in this class, you guys just don't fit this square peg.
Actually, that's what I was going to ask you, because I don't know how long you want to roll, but for sure I want to make sure we cover this before we wrap up. Coming from the perspective of being that kid, right? However, plug in your age, wherever you're 10, 12, 15, whatever. What are some practical things that they should be thinking of, even if no one else is affirming it? Like, what if you had a chance to say, okay, this is how I broke out of that bubble, whatever. These are the things I was thinking, what I was trying to do. What should they be thinking? How did you get past that?
I think there's a couple basic things that you need to learn how to do, and a lot of it, I think, it stems from a place of laziness because I didn't care, right? I just wanted to be Michael Jordan, and I didn't care about anything else. So I would go, and I had dedication in that, where I would go outside. You can ask my parents, for an hour every day, and just practice. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I had the dedication, and I didn't have the oversight to make sure I was doing homework or reading or something. Like, nobody cared.
Yeah.
I was what they call like a latchkey kid. But so you have to learn how to build good habits. Habit building is something that everybody needs to learn, especially people like me that are kind of entrepreneur type, that can deal with risk, can deal with stress, can deal with problems, can change things on the fly. If you're not that, square peg that goes in the square hole, I would say the thing you need to do is build simple habits in your life, and you need to learn how to read. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, you need to learn how to write. You need to learn how to, maybe one day I'll learn how to spell. But it's great now because we got spell check, and I can like voice things. I'm like, how do I spell this? Or I have Mike. You could just get a Mike. He knows how to spell everything. And then you also need to learn, you need to know basic math. Like, you need to know these things. But reading is I think the biggest key.
What about outside of school? What are like mindsets, thought processes? Like, what's something that, even if it's just one thing, you're just like, hey man, you need to be reminding yourself this? Or
I think it's not a mindset. I think it's more of figuring out who you are and what you're put here to do. You need to notice your strengths. And I had strengths that my older brother didn't. And my older brother was A student, got straight A's, got all these gold things when he graduated. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I like limped across that line. You know what I mean? I was like, I got it. Nothing, right? I didn't have nothing hanging from it. They were like, you barely got past. You know what I mean? It's like the back of my gown was singed. You know what I mean? Yeah. And just find out what you're good at. There's the whole big thing, like your boy Gary V, he talks about is EQ. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You can have IQ, right? But you can also have EQ. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And EQ is just like knowing how to deal with people, knowing how to negotiate, knowing how to read what's going on in the situation. People skills. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. People skills are more important than IQ, I would even say, in business. If you can learn how to deal with people and help them through problems, like, hence business, but I think the big thing is just finding, I think what would change somebody's life is find what you're good at and then double down on that. You got to get the basics, like I talked about, like you freaking have to learn how to read, but you have to double down on your strengths. And don't focus on your weaknesses. You know what I mean? Like, I say that a lot, but maybe now you know why I say it so much. Mm-hmm. because I focused on my weaknesses, and then I just said, well, forget it. Like, I'm just gonna be like, you know, some nobody.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
And but if you focus on your strengths and you just become obsessed about that thing that gives you passion, awakens that fire from within, gets you up in the morning where you're excited about the day. Um, you know, and then the other part of that is how to, I think a practical thing is how to not listen to these people. It's it'll put a little anger in, a little fire in your belly. Like, a lot of people wonder why, like, why are you so busy? Why are you doing so many things? Why are you like, why don't you just do this and just be happy, right? And a lot of that is because I'm pissed off. You know what I mean? Like screw them.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
prove 'em
Like,
wrong.
yeah, and it's also to prove myself.
Right.
Prove it to myself, and like, I want to have that day when I felt like I did it. Like, shoot, these teachers that struggle with me to read, and now I have like a book on Amazon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, that's hilarious to me.
Yeah.
You don't know how hilarious that is to me. You know what I mean? It's literally hilarious. Like, I wrote a book. Like, that's funny.
Yeah.
But that idea, like you have to get, you can't let it break you. It has to give you fuel. So it's like you use
That's
a
good.
judo move on it. You know what I mean?
Good.
You
Use it
use
for-
that energy against it to feel your tank, and it's more of like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. Like, you're not gonna get it over me. And maybe that's not like Hallmark and not warm and fuzzy, but life. I look at life like a war. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm not gonna let them win. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
So, one last question, real quick, before we wrap up. The flip the script. If you are a teacher, a parent, a pastor, a friend, grandpa, whatever, uncle, who sees someone struggling, what would have made the world of difference for you? What should they be doing or saying? From your own, obviously you can't. It's not a perfect answer, but from your personal perspective, what would you have liked to have happened?
What my pastor did, you know what I mean? He spoke life into my brokenness. You know what I mean? Like, I really was lost, and I had no hope to achieve something. And you can, as a youth pastor, or as my pastor did, and he'll never know. Maybe he'll watch this thing, but I doubt he'll ever watch it. But you don't know what your words of encouragement will do for somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, just little things like that. And you'll see me, if you've been around me for a while, I do that to people.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll speak into people's life, and I do it intentionally, and it's because you don't know what that little word of encouragement will do to somebody. That little word of encouragement, they will carry their whole life and break through freaking walls. You know what I mean? And I said, don't take it lightly. There's power in your words.
Yeah.
There's power in your words, and just a hug. You know what I mean? Just take some time and sit down with them and pour into them. Like, who knows what that kid's gonna be?
Got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I'll do it real quick because I know he's not gonna do it himself. Just brag about him a little bit. Ed's one of my best friends. We've been friends for a little over 2 years now. We've been working together for 2 years. He's built a successful business, right? He's built a successful business. He's, he created something from nothing, literally from scratch from day one. He's been doing it for 15 years. The business is profitable. He has 30 guys who are underneath him who learn from him every day, who turn to him as their mentor. He's built countless partnerships. He owns over 100 properties. I mean, there's not enough to say to brag about a guy who some people said couldn't win or couldn't succeed. And so I'm grateful to know him. And I'm only telling you guys this because I know he won't brag about it. He might tell you in person, by himself, but he won't tell the masses. And so that's part of the reason why his post stood out so much to me, is because I see the end product, but I didn't get to see the beginning. So in my head, it's just he's just a winner. Like that's all I see. I just see somebody who's like, dude, well, obviously the rose, yeah, like whatever. But I didn't see the struggle that led to that moment where you're like, hey, this looks like my life, you know. And so when we had the conversation about having this conversation, I told him, I was like, it's crucial, man, because you, again, like he said, you don't know who's listening. You don't know who might need to have this conversation, might need to hear it, might need to understand that despite what people around him or her are saying, that there's people who have proven that wrong, proven those conversations wrong, you know. And so I'm super grateful for you. I'm grateful for the influence you've had in my life, grateful for your friendship, and I guess in a weird way, grateful for your tragic, hardcore second to ninth grade life that led you here.
Yeah, no, and it's perseverance, you know. Don't give up, guys. Go out there and fight like hell and you'll win, you know what I mean? Just don't give up.
Cool.
Thanks, Mike.